Now at 9, a second Joplin police officer who was shot on Tuesday will not recover. We're going to have more on this afternoon's news conference and how the community is showing support.
The 4 states most watched news starts now.
As we go into the next week and as we go into honoring our fallen, please show up. Please engage. Please participate with us as we recognize the sacrifice and the service these great men have given to this community.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Jordan Abby. Joplin's city manager saying today during a media conference the tragedy in Joplin continues. The media conference announcing a second Joplin police officer who was shot on Tuesday will not recover from his injuries. One more officer remains in serious but stable condition. We're going to have more on this continuing coverage, but first, snow is moving into the area, the potential for slick roads tonight. Doug Heddy joining us now.
Yeah, we already got a lot of slick roads because we've been getting freezing drizzle developing over the past several hours, so that's putting a little coating of ice, especially on the Kansas side across the region. Everybody under a winter weather advisory for the overnight hours tonight into tomorrow, and you can see this band of snow which is developing, but if you turn the radar up a little bit, see all this? This is all freezing drizzle. The whole front half of this is all freezing drizzle before it switches over to snow. So it is putting a little coating of ice on the roadways. Of course, we're going to break this all down for you here in just a bit.
Doug, thank you. Tragedy deepens for the Joplin Police Department and our entire 4-state community. Again, at a news conference this afternoon, Joplin authorities announced that a second police officer who was shot on Tuesday will not recover from his injuries. KOAM's Dow Quick reports.
I ask that the community reflect on the heroism of our Joplin Police Department, the lives that were lost, the lives that were impacted, and the things that we must do to prevent this from happening again.
The second officer lost Patrolman Jake Reed, a 5-year veteran of the police force. After consulting with his family, city officials announced Thursday Reed will not survive.
Jake is an organ donor, and plans are underway for Jake's heroic actions to bring life to people needing organ transplants. We ask that you lift up his wife and family in prayer as they grieve. We're so proud, so thankful, and forever in debt for his service to this community.
Police say Reed was one of the 2 officers who responded to the initial call of a disturbance in a shopping area near 4th and Range Line Tuesday. They exchanged gunfire with suspect Anthony Felix. That's where both Reed and Corporal Ben Cooper were fatally shot. Felix stole a patrol car that crashed near 9th and Connecticut, the site of a second gunfight. Police say the suspect tried to steal another vehicle, and Officer Rick Hershey pulled his patrol car up to box in the suspect. The suspect fired through the windshield, striking Hershey in the face.
Officer Hershey bravely confronted this active threat to protect other officers and citizens from further danger. Rick is going to face some serious challenges in the days and months to come as he recovers, and most likely a series of surgeries to fix the damage that's done. We ask that you also lift his family up in prayers as he recovers.
At the news conference, police identified the officer who shot and killed the suspect. He's Captain William Davis, a 15-year veteran of the force.
If not for Captain Davis's actions, additional officers or citizens could have been killed. We ask that you also pray for Will and his family in the days to come.
Please continue to lean into these families as they are hurting and need that comfort. Not only the families that are affected that have been mentioned, but also our entire JPD family.
The city has not yet announced plans for funeral services. Flowers from the public to honor the 3 officers who were shot remain on display, although, as you can see right there, they are no longer outside. The flowers and other mementos had accumulated on a patrol car parked outside the police department. Police this afternoon moved them indoors so they'll be protected from the upcoming wintry weather that's here actually already. This tragedy has left many 4-staters asking, what can I do to help? A spokesperson for JPD says a good way to help is by donating to the Joplin Fraternal Order of Police Foundation. Foundation has set up a GoFundMe to collect donations for the families of the officers involved. Donations can also be made at JPD. We provided a link to the GoFundMe on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. Area businesses are also getting involved in raising money. Joplin Sports and Graphics is making shirts and hats with the slogan Joplin Strong. They say all the proceeds are going to go to the families of the 3 officers who were shot.
It reminds me how much of a community that we are. I watched this rally after the tornado and really step up, and I think that we're going to do the same with this with this situation.
Organizers say the shirts and hats are going to cost $25 each. That can be purchased until March 20th. Another local business is showing support by selling coffee and milkshakes. Joplin Greenhouse is hosting Back the Blue fundraiser. Starting today through March 14th, all proceeds from these menu items will be donated directly to the families of the fallen and injured officers. Joplin Greenhouse will also be accepting cards or written notes to the families that will be hand-delivered at the beginning of next week. Moving on to other news of the day, inflation hitting a new 40-year high for the month of February. The Consumer Price Index rose 7.9% compared to last year. From January to February of this year, nearly every category of goods and services saw a price increase. Fox's Madeline Rivera has a closer look tonight from D.C.
More tough news for Americans already feeling the squeeze of higher costs. The latest inflation data showing prices rose 7.9% in February compared to a year ago, eating into people's budgets.
Produce is pretty okay, but like juices and meats and stuff like that has gone up a little bit more.
Flour, milk, eggs, and coffee are more expensive. Used cars, gasoline, and electricity are also pricier. The White House blaming President Vladimir Putin for the sticker shock.
And we have seen the increase happen as a result of Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
Russia and Ukraine also produce nearly 30% of the world's wheat supply. The war threatening to send food costs spiraling even more.
There are so many things, key things that affect the global economy that have been impacted by this war in Ukraine, like corn. The price of corn, the price of grains, because if corn's expensive, you switch to wheat.
Critics are not buying that explanation, arguing that prices were rising even before Putin launched a war against Ukraine.
We're going to fight back against some of these nonsensical, irrational, simplistic policies.
All eyes are on the Federal Reserve, which has been criticized for moving too slowly to curb rising prices. The Fed is expected to raise interest rates later this month in an effort to cool the economy off. In Washington, Madeline Rivera, Fox News.
It's official. The United States is sending more help to Ukraine as Russian forces continue to bombard the nation. The House passing a fresh funding package last night with nearly $14 billion in aid. Fox News correspondent Lauren Blanchard is in Poland with these details.
Vice President Kamala Harris renewing America's commitment to protect NATO allies during a visit to Poland Thursday. Harris met with the Polish president, vowing to further assist Ukraine as Russia continues to bombard the war-torn nation.
We also fully appreciate we must be swift in terms of providing assistance where we can be helpful.
Lawmakers also pushed this same message after the House approved a massive spending bill Wednesday, providing $13.6 billion in U.S. aid to Ukraine and our European allies.
We must rapidly fund the urgent assistance that Ukraine and our allies along NATO's eastern flank need right now.
In recent days, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has slammed NATO for their failure to establish a no-fly zone. That criticism ramping up after Russian forces bombed a maternity hospital in the besieged town of Mariupol. Harris condemned the attack but reiterated a no-fly zone is off the table at this time. Healthcare professionals throughout the U.S. are now packing up their bags and heading to Poland to help refugees fleeing the war. One nurse who traveled from Arizona described the massive influx of refugees arriving at a makeshift camp here in Poland.
There's buses arriving every day. Yesterday and the day before, there was almost 7,000 people arriving here at this refugee center that we are at.
The Ukrainian and Russian foreign ministers met Thursday for the highest level talks since the war began, but these peace talks so far have stalled. In Poland, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.
KOAM News at 9 on Fox 14 takes this time now to honor another four-state hero. John Henning served in the U.S. Army from 1941 to 45. Native of Hepler, Kansas, Henning was stationed in Europe, and we are proud to thank Corporal John Henning. He's tonight's four-state hero. Doug Heddy's next with a complete look at the forecast, and later, Player of the Year honors for a McCully Catholic senior basketball player. Details in sports.
Well, it's turned out to be kind of a crummy day once again for us today. We've had the clouds, we've had some light snow showers, some freezing drizzle, a little bit of sleet mixing in on the Kansas side as we get this little band which is going to drop through. Winter weather advisories in effect for the entire viewing area as we get a little band of light snow, a little band of freezing drizzle and sleet rolling in for us. This morning we had some bands of light snow, did drop a dusting to ½ an inch in some areas in our northern counties. They melted, and then it's been increasing again over the past several hours, and you can't really see it, but we have some freezing drizzle on the leading edge which has been developing, so that has kind of put a little coating of ice on some of the roadways and then snow right on top of it. This is very light, but still we're in the 20s, so it's going to cause some issues. You can really see it from Fredonia, Neodesha, Chanute, Iola, Yates Center. And then once you get down into the lighter white here, this is mainly freezing drizzle from Erie to Girard over toward Pittsburgh. Fort Scott, Nevada, kind of a sleet, like a little snow mix, but all this is dropping off toward the south and to the east. It'll make it to the I-44 corridor here 2 or 3 hours. And then if you live south of Interstate 44, you won't see really much of anything for about the next 5 or 6 hours, and then things will start to get going. It is cold. We've dropped. We're in the mid-20s, lower 20s in our northern counties. We have these northerly winds kind of making it feel even a little bit colder than what it actually is. And if we look outside right now, 7th and Rangeline's fine. It's 25. North winds at about 10 to 15, but humidity's getting up there, sitting at about 81%. And that's why we're going to see a little bit of freezing drizzle, which you can see on that front edge, and that's what we have been picking up across the area. Snow drops south, I-44 corridor, so here's about midnight. Again, this is light snow, but it will cause some slick roads as we go through the overnight hours into tomorrow morning. Here's 4 a.m. It hasn't even really worked much farther south than Neosho at this point in time. And then light snow continues to drop a little farther south. Here's 6:30 in the morning. Our northern counties at this time, when you wake up, you're going to be done. You may still have some leftover little snow showers, but anything accumulating is done. Here's 9:30 in the morning. Heaviest at this point along and south of I-44. And then it'll start to taper off. Could go back to a little freezing drizzle on the back end. And then temperatures will start to rise a little bit. I do think we'll get a little bit above freezing late in the day, 28 by noon, high temp right around 20 or 35 degrees. Tomorrow night gets cold. We drop all the way down into lower teens, so another cold night. And if we look at amounts, this is a very light band, so it takes a while to pile up. I'd say most of us 1 to 2 inches with isolated 3-inch amounts. 35 tomorrow, 11 tomorrow night, 37 Saturday. Then we're near 60 by Sunday. So whatever we do get, it's not going to stick around very long, but it is going to cause some issues, especially tomorrow morning.
All right, so the more important question, though, I always ask you, snowman making material? What are we talking about?
It's kind of in between.
Okay.
It's not great, but it's going to melt so fast it becomes snowman making.
Yeah. All right, Doug, thanks so much. We'll see you in a little bit, man. Coming up, easing even more restrictions.
Despite concern over a new COVID variant, some states continue to take steps to get back to normal, while others are taking it easy. I'm David Lee Miller in New York. The details coming up.
Many Americans are seeing lights at the end of the pandemic tunnel as COVID cases continue to decrease across the nation, but the discovery of a new variant could soon impact us right here in the U.S. Fox News correspondent David Lee Miller has more on this story.
A potential new variant has been identified, and it's a combination of the Delta and Omicron variants called Deltacron. On Wednesday, the World Health Organization said the new strain was detected in France, the Netherlands, and Denmark. Health officials are warning that testing remains absolutely critical.
It's about making sure that we have good testing, intelligent testing, strategic testing, not only to monitor the variants and virus evolution, but to ensure that people know where the virus is.
The new variant comes as COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations continue to trend downward nationwide, prompting some states to start ending restrictions. In San Francisco, vaccine requirements will be lifted for bars, restaurants, and gyms starting Friday. And in Los Angeles, city council members took the first step toward lifting vaccine verification requirements. But while some areas are stepping up the loosening of restrictions, others, like Massachusetts, are taking a step back.
If we can certainly get the rates down, then it makes sense to continue the mask mandate until that time.
A mask mandate in Boston public schools is still in effect, despite the statewide mask mandate ending in February.
We probably can't keep masks on forever, so at some point you have to move forward and treat it like an endemic more than a pandemic.
The Boston Public Health Commission is recommending the school mandate be lifted once Boston's daily COVID-19 rate falls below 10 cases for every 100,000 people. In New York, David Lee Miller, Fox News.
So ahead, going to look at the benefits, also controversy surrounding the nation's first authorized safe injection sites. In a desperate attempt to curb rising drug overdose deaths, states across the country are pushing to open safe injection sites, as they've become called. Fox News' Gary Baumgartner has more on the proposed benefits, also controversy being generated from the nation's first authorized locations as people are allowed to freely inject themselves with illegal substances.
We're now getting a look inside some of the nation's first government-authorized drug injection sites. Locations meant to give people a safe place to shoot up and avoid overdose deaths.
If I wasn't here, I would have been either in the park or on the street.
According to data collected by the CDC, roughly 841,000 people have died from a drug overdose since 1999, with nationwide deaths now on the rise, increasing by almost 30% from April 2020 to April 2021. But staff at these facilities are trained to monitor for and reverse overdoses.
If they're not alive, they can't recover.
New York City is the first place to open such overdose prevention centers, with the potential for more to open across California, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. But critics question if the injection sites actually help people stop doing drugs, while others say the sites have the potential to be disproportionately located in poorer neighborhoods.
Harlem and East Harlem are oversaturated with drug treatment programs. We serve the needs of people from other communities.
The Justice Department is considering whether to make it easier for states to open injection sites, but as this initiative looks to take off in the United States, supporters point to the decades-old safe injection sites already operating in Canada, Europe, and Australia. Gary Baumgarten, Fox News.
If your two favorite foods are ice cream and pizza, well, going to introduce you to pizza ice cream when we come back. Life is short. Cram your dinner and dessert into one time-saving munch. Ice cream maker Van Leeuwen has concocted pizza ice cream. Yay or nay? I don't know. Most of the people in the studio say nay. Pint-sized delights made from a cream cheese and mozzarella base with tomato jam swirls and basil crust cookies. It's only at Walmart for 10 weeks starting March 14th. You're also going to find its Kraft mac and cheese, royal wedding cake, wild blueberry shortcake, bourbon cherries, Jubilee, Planet Earth, and hot honey ice creams. Those flavors are all at Walmart too. So we were talking about this not too long ago, and I don't know about this pizza thing, and I don't know about the Kraft mac and cheese thing, but those other flavors sound pretty good. The shortcake, you know. So someone get me some. 30 more minutes, news, weather, and sports coming away. Why former students in Southeast Kansas allege their teacher acted inappropriately towards them and why police have not filed charges.
The Pentagon says U.S. troops will not be sent to Ukraine, but that's not stopping some Americans from joining the fight. I'm Mark Meredith at the Pentagon. We'll have a closer look coming up.
Former Parsons High School students in Kansas allege a former teacher acted inappropriately toward them as students and that the actions continued after they graduated. KOAM's Bronte Sorotsky reports.
Former Parsons High School students are speaking out and saying their former teacher acted inappropriately towards them and their classmates. Now, that teacher has resigned.
My mindset was always like, oh, if it was weird, like he didn't mean it like that. But I'm like, maybe he did.
The two girls we spoke with asked not to be identified.
And back then I thought, that was kind of weird.
Recently, former students have been posting screenshots of inappropriate messages from the former Parsons teacher. We are not releasing his identity as no charges have been made against him. Sherry McGuire with the Parsons Police Department did share some details over the phone. She tells us they did investigate the situation and found that while his actions did violate school policy, none of his actions were found to be sexual in nature. That's based on the initial investigation. McGuire did say there is a possibility for this to be reopened. Parsons Superintendent Lori Ray said over the phone that this was a personnel issue and wouldn't answer when asked if the district was aware of his alleged actions.
All of those are personnel things that I can't share. He resigned on Tuesday. That resignation was accepted by our board on Tuesday evening. He's not involved in the upcoming New York trip.
But former students remember their teacher's inappropriate actions and comments.
And I put a picture of me laying on my back saying something about having no boobs, and he replied to it saying that it was just because I was laying down. And I was like, weird that he would reply.
They say the comments and messages started after they graduated, but still remember occurrences from him when they were students.
There was something that did kind of alarm me back then. And it was the fact that my fellow classmate, female students mainly, they had him on social media and they had his phone number.
In Parsons, Bronte Sorotsky, KOAM News.
Police say any students receiving inappropriate texts or messages should tell their parents or guardians immediately. Joplin Public Works Director David Hertzberg is retiring after serving the city for more than 40 years. Hertzberg began his career with the city as a part-time employee working in the city's sign shop and held several positions before serving as director for the department for nearly 15 years. He's retiring on April 4th, and big congratulations to you, Mr. Hertzberg. Missouri Southern today hosted a panel to discuss the war in Ukraine. The panel included 2 history professors, a political scientist, and an international business professor with ties to Ukraine. KOAM's Joplin Banks has more on this discussion.
As the war continues on in the Ukraine, questions and worries continue to grow here in the States. Missouri Southern put together a panel of professors with expertise on the situation. One professor in particular has personal ties to the Ukraine, with his wife being from there. Dr. Chris Moose shares how the war has impacted them.
And I've been there so many times. I have lots of friends and colleagues there. We're both personally touched by this war. And so that gives us a little motivation. We're wanting somehow to help the people we know as well as the people we don't.
The panel aimed to diffuse any confusion, add perspective and context to the situation. Dr. Moose believes that was accomplished.
I was more curious about what they were going to ask. What were the questions in their minds from the news that they hear every day? What were they misunderstanding? And I think the panel succeeded in answering some of those questions.
Students were welcome to attend the discussion, and history major Malcolm Robertson remains optimistic after attending.
I know we're all kind of worried about this at this time, but there is good in this world, and this world is overwhelmingly good, and we need to remember that.
From Missouri Southern in Joplin, Jalen Banks, KOAM News.
The school also announced a scholarship fund for area high school students from Ukraine to attend MSSU. As the Russian assault on Ukraine intensifies, more Americans are traveling to the front lines to lend a hand, calling themselves the International Legion. Fox News correspondent Mark Meredith has more now from the Pentagon.
As Russia's war on Ukraine stretches into a third week, a growing number of Americans are joining Ukraine's call to join the fight. At least 3,000 Americans are now either engaged on the front lines or on their way there. Most involved are former service members with combat experience, likely bringing valuable knowledge to a Ukrainian defense force mostly made up of civilians.
Everybody likes to talk about freedom, but freedom only really goes to people who are willing to show up and fight for it.
But they're not all going to fight.
If there's triage needed or evacuation efforts I can help out with, that's what I'm going to do.
Some American volunteers are helping off the battlefield. Some with medical training are acting as field doctors and nurses, treating injured Ukrainian soldiers and civilians being pounded by Russian rockets. While others find themselves shuffled between jobs, doing whatever it takes to support the resistance.
Professionally, I'm a builder, so I help with trades, building, moving. But when I'm here, and when I was in Mariupol, I drove an ambulance.
And as the fighting intensifies, Americans in the International Legion say their resolve is growing stronger, saying this war is about standing up to Russia and protecting freedom.
I cannot just sit here and watch it on the news and do nothing about it. I stand up for what's right.
And it's not just Americans helping out. Ukrainian officials say so far, some 16,000 foreigners have answered the call to fight. At the Pentagon, Mark Meredith, Fox News.
Rising oil prices means drops in numbers of planned flights for some airlines. Some air carriers, particularly discount ones, may be cutting some of their scheduled flights because jet fuel prices are increasing. Alaska Airlines, in particular, says its prices for jet fuel are volatile from the Russia-Ukraine war, and it expects to cut 3 to 5% of its flights over jet fuel price hikes. Allegiant Airlines, another example, may do the same and cut flights 5 to 10% during lower demand periods. A bit later, Jesse Smollett, sentenced for his role in lying to police about a hate crime back in 2019. Gonna take you inside the courtroom.
Well, kind of a cold, crummy day for us today. A lot of clouds all day long. We've had some on and off snow showers this morning in our northern counties, and then again we're getting some light snow and mixed with some sleet and freezing drizzle out there right now. Winter weather advisory is in effect for the entire region as we get this. This is not a big system, it's more of a nuisance which is going to rotate through, but a little bit of light sleet and freezing drizzle on the leading edge of this band which is developing, and this is going to slowly sink off toward the south and to the east. The leading edge really from about Lamar, Pittsburgh to Parsons to Independence, and the whole leading edge is kind of light sleet, light freezing drizzle, and then it kind of picks up as snow once you get into the darker blue. It is making roads slick already out across southeastern Kansas and then from around Nevada points northward. So be careful if you are going to be out tonight. You can see some of the little heavier bands. Here's Yates Center, Fredonia, Chanute. And when I say heavier, we're talking, it's all light. It's just a heavier light. Iola over towards Chanute, Fort Scott, Pleasanton, Nevada. But again, you can see that leading edge, Girard, Pittsburgh, right about the county line of Crawford and Cherokee County, and then getting into northern parts of Lebec County as well. Again, this is light. It's slowly going to advance off toward the south and to the east. It probably won't even get into Joplin for about 3, maybe 4 more hours before things start to go downhill. All right, temps have been going downhill all day long. We're sitting into the mid-20s right now. It's kind of windy out there, so it makes it feel a little bit colder than what it actually is. We have these north winds at about 10 to 15. 7th and Rangeline looks fine, staying dry right now, but of course that's going to change later on tonight. All right, let's work through time. So by midnight, that leading edge right along the I-44 corridor. Light sleet and then light snow. Then just bands of light snow continuing to slowly march south. So by morning, it should get into our southern counties, Benton County, over toward Berry County, but on the other end, your snow's tapering off. Light snow continues through the morning hours, and then after about 10 or 11 o'clock, it really starts to taper off, especially as we head into the afternoon hours. Then it'll be out of here. I do expect the roads to be somewhat slick during the morning as temperatures rise a bit during the afternoon. As we get near freezing or a little bit above, our roads will probably greatly improve by the time we head into tomorrow afternoon. But temperatures tomorrow night, we drop back lower teens. So it's going to be a cold night, but this is really going to melt off very quickly. In general, I have most of us in a 1 to 3 band. I'm really thinking 1 to maybe 2, and a few spots will get isolated 3 inches. So not a big storm, but still you want to exercise caution on the roadways. Again, a nuisance. 35 tomorrow, 37 Saturday, near 60 by Sunday. It will be all gone.
I don't know if you could hear, but everyone, the superintendents at home, the school superintendents at home watching TV, screaming, "Stop it, Doug Henry."
That's why I'm saying it's going to be a little tricky. It's more of a nuisance. Yeah. It's not going to be awful. It's a nuisance. Yeah. So they have to make that decision.
It's true. All right, man. Thanks so much, as always. Coming up in sports, 3 Southeast Kansas high school basketball teams hitting the floor tonight at State. Plus, Major League Baseball is back. Jacob Leonard joins us with those details next.
Today is a big day for the El Dorado Springs girls basketball program. The Bulldogs are on the floor in the state semifinals this afternoon in Springfield. aiming to move on to the state championship. The El Dorado Springs facing the Stratford Indians in that semifinal game. That one is final. The Bulldogs win a great one, 46-44. Reese Schaff finishes with 19 points, 17 rebounds to lead El Dorado Springs. They now move on to face South Shelby in the state championship game tomorrow afternoon. McCallie Catholic senior Kennedy Dury is the Ozark 7 Conference Player of the Year. And Dury helped the Warriors go 18-11 this season and finish as the Class 1 District 5 runner-up. She did a little bit of everything for McCallie. Dury averaged 16 points and nearly 6 rebounds per game this season. She also posted 4 assists and 4 steals per night. And Dury leaves McCallie as the program's 4th all-time leading scorer with 1,379 points.
When I was a freshman, I saw Courtney Bates get it, and I think I was always striving for that because it takes a lot of hard work and dedication, and I put in the work in the off season. This was my senior year. I wanted to go out with a bang. I was really, really honored. With us losing our key player, Kaylee, I knew that I had to step up, and I wanted to take that and use it as a challenge to motivate me and to get better.
We have 3 Southeast Kansas teams competing in state basketball tournaments tonight. In Class 3A, the Frontenac girls are on the floor this evening in the state quarterfinals. They're the 7th seed in the bracket, facing 2nd seeded Nickerson. It was tight all night, but Frontenac falls 47-40. Hattie Pyle posted double-double with 14 points and 10 rebounds. The Raiders finish 15-6 overall. Now, staying in the girls 3A bracket, the Cherryville Chargers aim for the upset today against the top-seeded Silver Lake Eagles, but Silver Lake too good today. Chargers fall 63-33. Cherryville finishes the season with a 15-9 overall record. For the boys' side now, the Colgan Panthers are the 8th seed in the 2A bracket. They have undefeated, top-seeded Valley Falls in the first round tonight. Colgan actually had an 8-point lead in the 4th, but the Dragons come back to win it 64-61. Jalen Van Beesler leads Colgan with 16 points. The Big 12 men's basketball tournament is this week in Kansas City. The Kansas Jayhawks are the #1 seed in the bracket after going 25-6 in the regular season. And the Jayhawks up against West Virginia this afternoon in the tournament quarterfinals. Look at this, Christian Brown up to Ochai Agbaji for the alley-oop. Hawks up 4. Now, a few minutes later, Agbaji drives and scores. KU already up double digits. Now, midway through the half, after a missed layup here, Mountaineers head coach Bob Huggins doesn't like the no call. He gets tossed from the game, and it did not get any better from there for West Virginia. DeJuan Harris, no-look pass to Jalen Wilson, gets the lead to 18. Then Harris to Agbaji. Agbaji finishes with 18. KU rolls by West Virginia today, 87-63. Now, staying with Big 12 basketball, K-State head coach Bruce Weber announced today he's resigning from his position with the program. Now, Weber spent 10 seasons in Manhattan. In those 10 seasons, he won 184 games, made the NCAA National Tournament 5 times, including making the Elite 8 in 2018. The Wildcats were knocked out of the Big 12 tournament just last night and finished the season with a 14-17 overall record. Finally, the Major League Baseball lockout is over. Major League Baseball and the Players Association agreed to a new collective bargaining agreement today that will end the league's 99-day lockout. Spring training will open on Sunday. Free agent signings can begin on Thursday. The regular season is expected to begin in early April with a full 162-game regular season. And that's it for sports. We're back with more news after this.
Actor Jussie Smollett is sentenced in Chicago more than 3 years after telling police he was victim of a racist and homophobic attack. Smollett is going to spend 150 days in jail and was also ordered to pay more than $120,000 in restitution to the city of Chicago. Fox's Anna Eliopoulos has how the day transpired.
Former Empire actor Jussie Smollett learning his fate in a Chicago courtroom Thursday for lying to police about being the victim of a hate crime.
There have been a series of legal errors. If the court is not convinced that any one of them warrants a new trial, we'd ask that the court consider the totality and grant Mr. Smollett a new trial.
None of those alleged supposed errors remotely would rise to the level of one requiring overturning the jurors' unanimous verdict nor two, the issuance of a new trial.
Back in January 2019, Smollett told Chicago police 2 men attacked him, wrapped a noose around his neck, and yelled racist and homophobic slurs. He maintained his innocence during trial, but a jury convicted him in December on 5 counts of felony disorderly conduct. More than 80 letters were sent on Smollett's behalf asking for an alternative to prison time. Among them, one from every major black civil rights organization in the U.S.
We've asked the judge to take that into consideration and perhaps come up with a resolve to this that doesn't further persecute or punish Jesse.
Smollett's nearly 3-year-long case has taken plenty of turns. Initial charges were brought in February 2019, accusing him of faking the assault, but they were soon tossed. A year later, a special prosecutor looked into the case, and a new 6-count indictment was filed. The city of Chicago filed a $130,000 lawsuit against Smollett for the cost of police overtime. Anna Eliopoulos, Fox News.
Coming up, a run-through of the movies now showing on the big screens and available to at-home streaming. From a family drama to a time-traveling family and an animated adventure, we have a look at this week's new releases with Fox's Ashley Dvorkin.
Have a good day, okay?
I will have a good day, Mom.
New in theaters, Tyson's Run follows 15-year-old Tyson, who's living with autism and attending public school for the first time, where his father is a football coach. There he strives to run his first marathon, becoming friends with a champion runner to do it, and finds rewards which stretch beyond the finish line.
Laura, this is me.
New on Netflix, Ryan Reynolds leads The Atom Project, about a time traveler teaming up with his younger self and late father to save the future.
This is gonna be the best year ever!
The animated tale Turning Red is on Disney+, with its story of May and her life adventures with family, friends, and school, which all get kicked up a notch as she discovers her ability to turn into a giant red panda.
Welcome to Upload, your digital afterlife.
Upload returns to Prime Video with Season 2 of the AI Afterlife comedy, bringing changes in relationships, new love interests, more murder mystery, and oh yeah, meet the prototype.
The killer left this for the Batman.
Plus, audiences can see Robert Pattinson as the Batman in theaters.
The answer's justice.
The Caped Crusader banked the best box office opening weekend of 2022. In Hollywood, Ashley Dvorkin, Fox News.
And that's our time for tonight. Thanks for joining us. Going to leave you with another look at a memorial inside the Joplin Police Department honoring those 3 officers shot earlier this week. Be safe. Do this all again tomorrow. See you then.